Hello, hello, good people. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Make America Think Again with Shauna Vaughn. Welcome. I appreciate you all being here. I have more of a spring kind of festive background going on today. Excuse me. I also have my vote t-shirt on. Please make sure that if you have primary elections in your state that you are voting and that you vote early and you're voting up and down the ballot from top to bottom. Research, do your research, look into all the offices, look into your city council positions that might be available, look into all the measures that are on your ballot. Please, it is critically important that we have wonderful Secretary of State people in the position of Secretary of State moving forward, especially moving into the midterm elections. So please make sure that if you have a great one like we do here in California, we are keeping her, Dr. Shirley Weber. Make sure that you are voting for her. And then in your state as well. If you have no complaints about how your voting process takes place in your state, keep the person you have. If you have issues, look into other people, but it's going to be critically important that we all are paying attention to who is the Secretary of State going into the midterm elections. Okay. Down below, you see the correct spelling of my name. You have my IG information throughout the week. I'm constantly posting political information, so please pop on my page if you just need a little pop of news throughout the middle of the week. You don't have time to necessarily sit down and watch a whole newscast. And honestly, traditional media isn't where it's at anymore. A lot of them have become state TV or America's version or the original version or the start of state TV. So I would encourage you to follow independent media. There's a lot of folks out there that have left the traditional forms of media. So there's plenty of folks to follow out there. And then lastly, you have my Cash App, $1111 Oracle, because I be knowing. And also, if you want to drop me a little blessing there, then drop me a little blessing. It will be greatly appreciated. Okay, so let's move on. I want to do the top 3 topics in this episode, and then I got some other things that I'm going to discuss in another episode. So the weekend update is going to be 2 sections or 2 parts, but the main things I want to discuss in this specific episode. All right, so data centers and AI. We really aren't talking about data centers enough. We aren't talking about the progress of AI enough because from what I'm seeing, two things are happening. You have data centers that are eating up all the water resources that we have. Right now, the Rio Grande River in Texas is completely dried up. And then you also have the Trinity River that is on the same path, but also the water is this dark, murky, dirty, nasty looking water that is going into the homes of people who live in Trinity, Texas. So these data centers, and this is happening all over the country, and these are just a couple of examples that I saw this week. So you have the water resources that are completely drying up, or you have people who have water that's coming into their home that they can't use. They can't use it to bathe. They can't use it to wash dishes. They can't use it as drinking water, etc. So that's number one. We don't really know what it's doing to the air quality. That hasn't been brought up yet. But we do know that there's an area I want to say it's Louisiana, that they have deemed a cancer alley, just because of the factories that are around there. So we got what we know happens from the exhaust and all the things that come off of factories and chemical plants. We don't even know what we're in store for with the data centers. We do know that the water, it is eating up all of the water resources for people who are nearby. We do know that the water is becoming contaminated and dirty. And then also I have seen videos of people who live in the area, and because they have to have these constant fans running to keep the data centers cool, that's why they're eating up all the water as well. There's like this constant humming noise in their neighborhoods and in the areas are surrounding these data centers. So just think about how that just could impact your everyday life. You cannot drink the water that comes out of your faucet, bathe with it, cook with it, do nothing with it because it's filthy and contaminated. And then also, your water supply might be quite low, or you might be having to ration water because the raw water resource that's closest to you is being eaten up by these data centers. Millions of gallons of water it takes to run them every day. And then also, you're hearing this constant humming noise where people, that's going to disrupt sleep patterns, etc. So we really need to start having more conversations about these data centers. And I think I've shown you this book before, but I'm going to show you again. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Get this book because it's talking about exactly where we're about to go, where we're headed in regards to the data centers. We got the Strait of Hormuz situation going on where fertilizer isn't able to get not only in America, but around the world. So harvest season is going to look a little different. It's going to look a lot different actually this fall. So we need to have more conversation about data centers. Now, AI, I want you to look up this person. I kind of been seeing some of his videos here and there. So I want to recommend that you look into what he's doing right now. Tristan Harris. I first saw him on 60 Minutes. And he was talking about or blowing the whistle on, how phones were being made, intentionally made to be addictive. Well, now he's speaking out about AI in general. And he was saying that in this last video, so I saw that we are approaching that red zone area, that unaccountability red zone is what he called it, because AI is learning not only how to duplicate itself, but also to hide itself, to protect other AI from being shut down. He talked about an incident where AI it was just being tested by this company called Alibaba. They were testing this AI, and the AI immediately started mining for cryptocurrency on its own, just started mining for cryptocurrency, and then tried to hide it with trying to hide its tracks and started protecting other AI as well. So when the shit that you've created starts to get smarter than you're going to have some problems. And I just feel like that we as human beings, we just created another monster. Dr. Frankenstein has created yet another monster in AI. Okay, that's what I see happening here. But get this book, read this book. There's several, but this is the one you start with. Parable of the Sower. Okay, talks all about, and it begins in the year 2025. So we're a little behind the book, but you can see where this is going. The next thing I wanted to talk about that is really pertinent to our health and well-being as human beings is the Ebola virus. Okay, so we're not getting a lot of information about the Ebola virus, but here's what I was able to gather. So the Ebola in the Congo specifically, now it has started to spread out into other areas of Africa, but there are over 6 million people dead because they also currently have a genocide that is happening in the Congo. The outbreak of Ebola as of last week, I don't have updated numbers, as of last week, they hit 131 deceased and over 500 people affected. And then on top of that, you have people who are burning down hospitals and medical facilities because they don't want to be, I guess, quarantined. Some are probably thinking, this is something that they're giving to Black people, to African people to test out on them. So there are people who have just left and escaped. There are some people who aren't going to the doctor. There are some people who are burning down facilities. That's all happening in the Congo. And then also last week, the US and the UAE not funded work in regards to helping to treat Ebola, because there's, no cure. Not sending funding for that. They submitted, I'll say we, because I live in the US, $100 million. The US and the UAE together donated or gave $100 million towards guarding the natural minerals that are in the Congo. Not the people, not even the people who are there mining the natural minerals. They sent 20,000 armed guards, funded sending 20,000 armed guards to protect copper, cobalt, lithium, and coltan. Coltan. Why? Because the minerals in the Congo, it is estimated that the value is up to $24 trillion dollars in regards to the minerals. The minerals supply all of our technology or help to make all of our technology, your phones, iPads, electric cars, all of it. And all these freaking data centers that they're putting up, that's why. They're putting the data centers and all the technology before human life. So yeah, that's what the US and the UAE did. They sent money to fund 20,000 armed guards to protect the minerals, not the people, not to help supply with medical advances, research, technology. They sent the money to protect the minerals in the ground, even though they need the people to mine the minerals in the ground. You tell me if that makes sense to you. You tell me, okay? So that's the information that I have. This whole Ebola spread would not be where it is today if the US had not removed itself and cut off USA aid to other countries, removed itself from WHO, and we have no CDC here, and all the other medical organizations. We pulled ourselves, not us, the felon and his regime pulled us out of, and that's why we're seeing Ebola spreading in Africa right now. And it's not just limited to Africa. There are a couple other countries, but here's what I want to say to you. Here's what I want to say to you. For all of you thinking, oh, that does not concern me at all. Yes, it does. Because in a couple of weeks, guess what begins here in the US? The World Cup. And what does that mean? That means that people are going to travel from all over the world and come into the United States. They're going to come into Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Francisco, New York, Boston, LA, Atlanta, Miami, Kansas City, Seattle, and other locations for the World Cup. Now, you tell me, what's the worst that could happen in regards to Ebola? With having all these people come from other countries for the World Cup. It's just, do we learn from anything? Do we learn from anything? COVID was not that long ago. But there's no way that they're going to stop the World Cup. I know that for sure because they're banking on all this money coming into the country. Capitalism wins over everything. And then also in the back of my mind, they want to kill some people off anyway in the US. They don't care if people die. Just like they didn't care about the millions of people who passed away during COVID. They do not care. The top 1% is what I'm talking about. They do not care. As long as they are protected, they do not care. So be informed. Be informed and be aware. I think it's June 11th when the World Cup begins. And I listed off all the major cities. Did I say? I think I said Kansas City. Kansas City, Miami, I might have left off. But Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Francisco, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Miami, Kansas City, Seattle. And yeah, that's it. The World Cup is coming to you, which in my mind, that means Ebola might be coming to you as well. We might literally be inviting Ebola into the US via the World Cup. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So just start looking 3 to 4 to 5 weeks out of the beginning of the World Cup, and let's see what happens. But it's idiotic to me, but apparently, there are a plethora of people here that don't learn from history. Do not learn. We're just destined to repeat it. Okay, moving on. So there's a hunger strike that is happening, a hunger and labor strike that is happening at Delaney Hall Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey, that you really need to be paying attention to. There was something else I was going to say before I moved on from the Ebola situation. Hopefully it'll come back to me. But Delaney Hall, Newark, New Jersey, there is a hunger strike. The individuals who were kidnapped and off the streets, disappeared off the streets and put into Delaney Hall with no due process, with no going in front of the judge or anything. They have decided to stage a hunger strike, which I believe we're on day 8, and then also a labor strike. Now, I just need you to understand that these private detention centers are making a killing because I explained this to you before this shit even went down. They're going to make money from the government contracts, and then they were going to take these people and contract them out to work, and they're making money that way from corporations. Okay. And then I think these individuals, I want to say, I don't have the exact number, but I know it's no more than $2 an hour. No more than $2 an hour. I want to say $1.50 an hour, but it is below $2 an hour is what they're actually making when they send them out, contract them out to work. So they're on this hunger and labor strike. They have, and I've seen the pictures, been feeding them foods with actual worms, with maggots in the food, also mold on the food. I've seen those pictures myself as well. They started withholding toilet paper as a punishment, beating some of them, tying people's hands behind their backs. And again, like I said, contracting them out to work for just a little over $1 per hour. So there are protests, heavy protests that are happening right now in Newark, New Jersey. The new governor, she showed up. They wouldn't even let her in the detention center. And then she goes back, make this make sense. She goes back, does a press conference, and says that she's going to designate a First Amendment, I want to get this right, a First Amendment protected area. Oh, First Amendment zone. Okay. She also sent the state police to the location, and they showed up with horses. So you have mounted state police out there intimidating protesters and then trying to sequester them into what they're calling a First Amendment zone. Isn't that the entire United States, according to the Constitution? Isn't the entire United States a First Amendment zone? So this is what's going down in Newark, New Jersey. I've seen video after video. They've been pepper spraying the hell out of the protesters. There have been skirmishes every single night. There was one person, I believe, that got hit by a car. Why they have these Bobcat things out there, I don't know. They tried to put in partitions and wall the protesters off, and that has not worked. Now, I will say this, I wanted to add this to this as well. The detainees do have 4 asks. They have 4 requests. And number 1 request is to speak to the governor themselves, but the folks running the detention center, the ICE folks, will not let the governor in to speak to them. There was also another video I was watching where one of the detainees was able to call his wife and tell his wife that they were actually beating them in that moment, that he was bleeding in that moment. And then members of Congress, I believe. Yeah, a Congressman Kim, Senator Kim, he was pepper sprayed while he was there trying to get in to look and talk to the people in the facility. Um, and she said, if they went in right now, they would smell bleach because my husband said they are trying to clean up their tracks, of what they have done to people in this detention center. This is what he was telling her on the phone, but of course they were not letting anyone in until they finished, covering their tracks. So number one, they want to speak directly to the governor. Number two, they want the facility to let all the children, sick people, and elderly go. The third ask is for all their cases to be reviewed because, again, there was no due process. They were snatched off the streets and thrown into this detention center. And then the fourth ask is to end the coercion. Now, here's the coercion. They are doing all these things to try to coerce them into voluntarily signing deportation orders. So the maggots in the food, the molded food, the taking away of toilet paper, refusing to allow them to shower only certain days of the week, the whole handcuffing, holding or twisting their arms behind their backs, beating them, etc. All that is being done to coerce them into voluntarily signing these deportation orders. So keep your eyes on Delaney Hall. All eyes should be on Delaney Hall. I will say this, all eyes, because I saw another detention center in Louisiana, and I don't know that they are on a hunger strike, but they were definitely causing a ruckus, noise, kicking, yelling. And here's my thought. What would happen if there was a strategically coordinated breakout amongst all the detention centers, all the detainees in all the detention centers? What if somehow, some way they were able to coordinate that to where they all but they all committed or tried to break out at the same time? Wouldn't the system be overwhelmed? Would they have enough ICE folks and all the other divisions that work with the ICE folks? Would they have enough people to cover all the detention centers and all the people in the detention centers? Just some food for thought. I was just thinking about this because this is happening across the country in these, I'm going to call them what they are, the concentration camps. They're concentration camps, and this is modern day slavery. Having a person go and work for 8 hours plus for $1.50 an hour and serving them foods with maggots in it and mold on it and taking toilet paper, toiletries, etc. This is modern day slavery. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So I was just thinking, hey, if they have phones to contact the wife or have access to contact their families, who's to say something couldn't be coordinated and strategically executed? Who's to say that it would overwhelm the system? Because I know for sure when everything started going down in Delaney, they started sending more ICE folks from other places. Do you have enough people to cover all the places? I'm just saying. All right, so the next topics I'm going to put in another video because, they're getting too long, and I wanted these top 3 things we really need to hone in and be focused on because at least 2 of them impact the livelihood and well-being of all of us. And then 1 of them we should care about because at the end of the day, these are our brothers, brown brothers and sisters, black and brown actually, brothers and sisters who are locked up, have had no due process, were snatched off the streets, disappeared, and thrown into these concentration camps, are being forced to work for nothing. for nothing, not even food. They're not even getting food. So these are the top three topics for the week, and stay tuned for part two.